Hello, welcome back to All for United WFC. For a second there, I actually forgot I was hosting, and I was just I was just sat here looking at the thumbnail going, are we going to go live on what? And then I realised I'm in the hotel. Yeah, that shows you. At the moment, we're in the chat as always. Final match reaction of 2024. It's a bit sad, isn't it? I said this on the preview show. I hate it when it comes to the end of the year and everything else, but there we go. So get all your thoughts, your comments, and everything else. There's not going to be loads to talk about with the game, but we'll find a way, as we always do. We are going to start, obviously, with the League Cup draw, though, that was made today, and a new name for the League Cup. I keep calling it the League Cup because I don't want to call it by its new name, I can't lie, but it is now called the Subway League Cup, which I'm a bit like, I don't know whether I'm on board with that. I'm still going to call it the Conti Cup, I think. Oh, Barry, have you not seen that? New sponsor.
Subway League Cup.
That's the new name. Subway are now the new sponsor, aren't they? So,
yeah.
Oh,
also, is it? I was hoping it was some sort of joke that the new second European League format is going to be a two-legged final. That is just disgusting.
It's also as well with that European final thing. I'm pretty sure. I'm sure I saw Rich Lavity tweet about this earlier that you don't qualify if you finish fourth. You have to go through the top three, and it's if you don't make it through the Champions League qualifier, and you then drop into it from a WSL point of view, which is even more mental.
There's no incentive for. It still be the same teams in the European competitions.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's the sandwich cut. Exactly. It's. Yeah, that is the new name. The Subway Women's League Cup is what it's now going to be called, apparently. But I will probably still call it the Conti Cup.
Well, I think we'll have to call that the Footlong Cup, don't we? Can't call it the 6-inch Cup. That's no good to anybody.
Exactly. Subway. Cup.
Ultra.
Maybe that's it. Maybe when we get to the final, that's what you got to do. But I was going to say, Ellie, you do like your Subways, so maybe that's it. Maybe they were thinking of you when they put this in. I mean, the one positive I will say on it, there is obviously a lot of money going into it, which hopefully will make the tournament better. But I don't know. I'm just not a fan of the name, to be honest. But there we go. We shall see what happens there. But the draw was made. Quarterfinals, semi-finals, and we know when we're now playing.
Would you eat your Subway with a knife and fork or with your hands?
He'd use his hands for that because it's got the
Yeah, I think hands.
Imagine so. There's a lot of filling there, and the filling could spill out onto his top, thus sending him into a spin.
It depends.
Imagine he's got meatball marinara, Charlie. That's it. Last thing he wants is meatballs on his chest.
I would be eating that. If it's got like hot things in it, then I'd probably. If it's just like a tuna and a sweetcorn or something like that, like a tuna, sweetcorn, lettuce, that kind of thing, then yeah, hands. If it's got all that, like, if you're cooking something, no, not from that. That probably would be a knife and fork thing. Actually, I probably shouldn't be admitting that on here, but
probably shouldn't. But
yeah. So anyway. Straight in there with that. The draw was made. League Cup semi-final, quarterfinals, and we're going to be playing at, is it Derby? Derby's ground as well, which is where the final is going to be held this year, or next year, this season. I'm sure that's where they said it was, unless I'm completely misreading it. I'm sure they said that's where it was. Someone can correct me in the comments when I ask this question.
It is at Pride Park, yeah.
There we go. See, I was listening to the draw. Barry, I'll start with you then. City in the semi-final. It's going to be Arsenal or Brighton. City in the quarter-final, sorry. Chelsea. Oh my God, get me words out. Shall I just start this again for anyone listening on audio or anything else? Right. Barry, so quarter-final draw was made. We have Manchester City at home in the quarter-final and a potential Arsenal and Brighton semi-final, should we get through that. And a potential Chelsea in the final as well, should we get there. What's your thoughts on that? Because as most people said, that's two derbies because of the way the draw has fallen and the dates. Two Manchester derbies in 4 days. That'll be for us.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? Will it be 3 derbies, as in making it to the final? Listen, it's hard. City have been really good this season. The pessimistic part of me would sit there and go, well, it was lovely to make it to the quarterfinals. It's going to be tricky. But the simple fact is, if you want to win a cup, you've got to go out there and you've got to beat the best, haven't you? You know, there's no point sitting there and wishing anything else. At the end of the day, they are the 3 top teams, and we're assuming, to be fair, that those teams all go through. The only thing we know for sure is that we're playing Man City. Arsenal haven't won the game yet, and they've had some interesting results this season. And of course, Chelsea in the final. Again, they've still got to win the 2 games, and if this weekend's taught us anything, it's that nothing's guaranteed. So, you know, I think all we can do is concentrate on the City. Can we beat Man City? Yes, we can. We've done it before. But City can also beat us. So it's a big game. But let's be honest, that's the sort of thing that this competition requires, is big games and things like that, which will maintain your interest moving into the second half of the season. Because let's be honest, the first half of the season, it doesn't quite have the same sort of spark. But this is the business end of the cup, and it's where we expect to see some of these bigger games and these opportunities to get there. So, listen, if we beat City, to me, that puts us in a great situation moving forward for the rest of it. And let's not forget, Connor, the moment where we all bonded, the 3 of us. I say the 3 of us. You definitely bonded more with Charlie due to the fact that she mounted you. But that semi-final, or the quarter-final, I can't remember which final it was, against Arsenal, which was just absolutely superb. So, you know, that moment at Boreham Wood will live with me long into my life. So, listen, who's to say that there can't be another exciting moment just like that? Who knows, Connor, who's going to be mounting you this time?
I love it, because new viewers are not going to understand the context of that. So I'm going to ask Charlie the same question and also ask her to explain the context of that question, that comment that Barry just made there about the Boreham Wood Mountain, so to speak, down there with the Alessia Russo late winner against Arsenal. Back then it was. And yeah, your first introduction onto the channel as well. So right to point that out. But yeah, your thoughts on the draw and everything around that as well.
The draw is not the kindest, obviously, the route through. Really, obviously, I'm really pleased that Chelsea get parachuted in at this point and get a really nice draw. That's really good for them, because they need that more than anyone else in the league, obviously. I'm glad it's at home. I think that helps us out a little bit. And I'm really looking forward to us scoring within the first 5 minutes and then parking the bus for the next 85 to 90. So I have faith. It's in the cup. You never know. Last year, semi-final of the FA Cup, no one gave us a chance against Chelsea, did they? Thought we were going to get absolutely hammered. And then look what happened there. But yeah, it's like Barry said, you have to beat one of these teams, one of them at some point, aren't you, if you want to make a final and play in a final. So why not be that lot? It always feels like we end up getting a draw against them just as we're about to play them in the league. And then it always tend to lose both, and then it has a bit of a negative effect. So I hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, looking forward to it. I like playing City. I like a derby. And perhaps they can follow the boys' lead. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Also, no one's mentioned this is the first time. Like this weekend was the first time in something like, is it almost a year that the men and the women have both won on the same weekend? That is a mad stat. I'm sure it's been like 30 odd weeks. So yeah, tough draw. Got to beat them at some point. But I suppose we got a kind of draw in the FA Cup, didn't we, against West Brom? So we can't be miserable or too miserable about it. But yeah, we'll see. Yeah, up against it. I think some people have said maybe it'll be the City that turned up against Everton. I think that's unlikely. But we can but hope. If we play to the best of our ability, if our players play their best football and are set up in the way to play their best possible football, then we have a chance. If we don't, if we play how we played yesterday and how we played against Villa, we're going to find it difficult, I think. That's the truth of the matter.
Yeah, I think so. I think for me, it's just the way that the draw has fallen in terms of the dates. As I said, obviously we've got City on that Sunday, City again Wednesday or Thursday, depending on when they put the game, and then we've got Brighton, which obviously is a team we struggled against this season with the 1-1 draw earlier in the season as well at home the following Sunday. So that's 3 games in 7 days where it's going to be ridiculously tough, and there's obviously going to have to be rotation in at least one of those games, as we've seen in these last 7 days, with the Newcastle game sandwiched in between two WSL games as well. So I think I'm happy it's at home. I can't lie, because obviously Manchester derbies for the women's now will be at Old Trafford and the Etihad for the most part moving forward. So I'm glad it's back at LSV, because it's, we're not going to get that too often anymore, having the big Manchester derbies at LSV. So I'm happy for that. But yeah, if we go on and win the League Cup, it will be one of the toughest runs, I think, because Brighton could beat Arsenal, to be fair. But if Arsenal obviously do get through, that'll be a City, Arsenal, Chelsea route, likely to the fight, as you said, Chelsea getting parachuted into this round and get probably the easiest run possible, because, it's just what they do. But I will say they like to lose a Conti Cup final. They've lost, is it like 2 of the last 3 or 3 of the last 4 or something like that? They don't tend to win it. They always get to the final and then lose in the final. So maybe that's something to hold on to as well. And I've always said from the start of the season, I just want to win it, because it's just another trophy that we haven't won yet. So it'd be nice just to tick that one off. And then we can start singing that chant. We've seen it all, we've won the lot, once we get into the Champions League and go and win that as well. We might be a few years off that, mind, but we can get there one day.
We have a little 2-legged final thing.
Or that. With the
WNL.
Oh, that's awful, that.
WNL's not that bad.
Oh, I've got tickets to the final. Oh, just the first leg you have. Like, imagine if that ends up being really one-sided. What will then happen? What will happen in the second leg? That is absolutely mental. It's like going, it's the Olympics 100-meter sprint, but you're going to do 50 meters of it today, and then you're going to do the 50 meters next week. But you're going to start with whatever the distance you were ahead. That's how far. It's just absolutely ridiculous. It's never worked in the past, and it won't work now.
To be honest with you, Charlie, you're onto something there.
What a way! What a way!
Imagine having a 100-meter one where you stop, leave it a week, come back, and then start them off exactly where honestly, that could be a thing.
Ridiculous. But again, it's just another thing where I think, what a way to just dumb down women's football. Why are you doing that? There's a reason you stopped doing it in men's football. Why are you doing it now? Baffling.
My guess is money.
But what they won't. But
because then both sides get a little bit. You're butting. You just asked. That's my guess. That's all it is.
You win it, but not even in your home ground, not even a neutral ground. So there'll be complete disparity with the fan bases there. I think it's just baffling to me.
Consider it's the second-tier competition. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, I think I said to you, Charlie, in the Ren, like back in the last season, it was going to be a 2-legged final. I remember the reaction then. Everyone was like, no, surely not. But here we are. But yeah, thankfully, the League Cup final is not going to be 2-legged. So hopefully we'll be going over to Pride Park and winning the trophy over there, because it's something we've not won yet. So we'll see. When we get to that, obviously we'll be covering City closer to the time, but quite a return back. 4 games in a month. It's not often you get 4 games in a month, obviously, in January. We've not had that for a while. So West Brom, 2 City twice, and Brighton we've got to look forward to when we come back. We'll move on to why we're all here then. The final game of 2024 was Crystal Palace. So we started the year off with a win. We're going to end it with a win. Have we got anything to say on the lineup itself, just very quickly? Because it was the same lineup we played against Liverpool, so there wasn't obviously any changes there. Is there anyone people would have changed for this one, or were we pretty content with the lineup?
I was pleased with it, because I think I said in the last show I was on after the Liverpool game that that same 11 deserves a run out again, because they probably had the best performance that we've seen all season. So I was pleased with the starting lineup, but equally as surprised with the completely different sort of abject performance, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I was pleased with it. I thought we would make a comfortable afternoon of it. I thought we'd maybe kick on after the Liverpool performance with regards to performance-wise, because I know statisticians out there, we won the game. That is important, obviously. We were 1 point off second, but it wasn't quite the performance that I was hoping it would be, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I definitely want to come back to that, because I think that's going to be the general gist of the overall show. Barry, for yourself, were you pretty happy that it stayed the same 11? You know, I to be honest, I was pretty much expecting that to be the case. You just beat Liverpool 4-0. I would have bet most things I had that the lineup was going to be the same. But would you have changed anything in terms of the 11 itself?
No.
The end.
There we go. So, relatively happy with that one. I know there's changes I would have made, but that's a seasonal thing, not just a one game thing. I.e., that Welsh midfielder that we've got sat on the bench. But oh god, come back to that because that's a whole other question on itself. Right, Barry, I'll come back to you first, because you gave a really short answer. Then first half. What did you...
Only because, Connor, I just want to point out, you said, has anyone got anything to say? I deliberately stayed quiet, and then you asked me the question anyway. So I was like, no, I have nothing really to say on that point. I apologise, but I will be ultra long on this one, so people get ready.
No, it's all good. Well, just the first half in general. I'll talk about the goal as a separate point, because that essentially was gift wrapped to us, to be fair. I know that we pressed pretty well, but I want to come back to that separately. But first half, I put it on the tweet, game of little chances, really, well, overall, but the first half in particular, there wasn't too many there. Why do you think that was, or what did you make of it, kind of watching it in this first 45 minutes or so?
Do you know what? It was incredibly frustrating, Connor, because obviously I was meant to be out with my own team doing some football, and that got called off because of a waterlogged pitch. So I was like, do you know what? I can live with it today. I've got the women. That's going to be a superb match, followed by the men against Man City. Brilliant. I can lock myself in for a brilliant Sunday of football. And that's what I was really looking forward to. I can't recall the last time I was so bored watching a football match. I think we have to go back to the Jose Mourinho era for me to have genuinely been sat there as poorly. Honestly, I tweeted it. The highlight of the half before the goal was they had a moment where they just put up where all the Man United fans were. And if I'd had the ability, because I just have Now TV now rather than Sky, if I'd had the ability to pause it, I think I genuinely would have paused it and played like Where's Wally with the United fans. You know, oh, there's Charlie, there's Mark, there's Andrew. And I actually did put Andrew Wall. Seeing him, he's easy to spot. Was the highlight of the half. And I'm only partially joking because there was no energy. And I think that's the thing that was the issue. There didn't seem to be any urgency. There didn't seem to be any... I mean, I don't know if there's part of them that's thinking Chelsea's already won this. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it was psychological. I don't know if it was just tiredness. I genuinely could not tell you whether it was the tactics, whether we've been asked to dig in a bit more, whether we were scared. We've got the best defensive record in the league. And yet here we are, just apparently unable to do anything going forward again. I mean, it wasn't even like we had a lot of chances. It was just all around the midfield. Some people, losing the ball. Nothing really forward thinking. It was just dire, Connor. It was absolutely just atrocious. I can't, and it's not like me to sit there and be quite so negative about a performance, but it was. And honestly, I'm not going to sit there and necessarily even say that that's a Mark Skinner problem. Like, everything about that performance was flat. Like, everything. And I don't know. It's to me, it was a bit like opening up a bottle of lemonade, having shook it quite a bit, and then just leaving the cap off and coming back to drink it a couple of weeks later. And it was that flat. There was nothing. There was nothing. No urgency. No. Just didn't seem to be any attacking verve. No excitement. I think, with the greatest respect, this is Crystal Palace away. We should have been going there, and it almost should have been like how many can we score type thing. And I think that's a worry. The fact that the middle of the week we've gone off to Newcastle and we've scored 5 goals, and yet we've travelled to Crystal Palace here and we've struggled to score 1 is a bit of a worry. So I don't know. I'm gonna notch this one up to being just one of those games and a tricky one. And at the end of the day, we won it. So there's only so much that can be said about it. But now I'll be looking to see if there's a pattern, because frankly, that was just not what's expected for me of any Manchester United team, because there just didn't seem to be, just like I say, any urgency, any energy, nothing. They look like they were all ready for, the Christmas holidays and the chance to put their feet up.
Yeah, I think that, well, it just kind of sums up how I felt, because I think, and Charlie, I'll ask you the same question in terms of the first half itself, because I mean, as Andrew's just put in the chat, we had 60% possession in that first half, that only registered 2 shots on target, and I'm trying to think, but we were talking before we came live, I was trying to think of chances that we actually had. Galton, I think, hit the bar or the post, I can't remember which one it was, but it was like a flicked header that I don't think was ever really going to go in. But other than that, I don't remember us having a chance. I remember looking at the clock at one point and thinking, hang on a minute, 40 minutes have gone. Like, what? Because the half just flew by with really nothing happening.
Yeah, it was slow on the ball, looked devoid of ideas, just holding onto the ball for too long as well, and not releasing it quickly enough. And then the players like Jade and Jace, who were trying to push on and make runs, having to then come back because the ball wasn't played to them. It's just too much faffing around with it in the middle. Just receive the ball, pass the ball, receive the ball, pass the ball. Like, move it. I think I was standing with a really nice lady at the game, and I just said, just need to release the ball quicker. Like, if you move the ball quicker, that makes it harder automatically for the opposition. Like, Crystal Palace weren't good, but then they didn't have to be, because we weren't either. And actually, that game was probably a small victory for them, in the sense that it wasn't a cricket score. They came away with more dignity from it than we did, I think, which is baffling, considering that we won the game. But it was just really, really frustrating to watch. It was a good opportunity, particularly with, and I know maybe our players wouldn't have known this was going on. So that Chelsea had dropped points and City lost, which was incredible, really, against an Everton side that have really been struggling. And it was a game where it was set up for us with the team that we had to go in and score 2, 3, 4 goals, and then go into the break in a really positive way, and then set up for coming after Christmas. But it was just devoid of ideas. There was one really good opportunity. I think it was in the second half, where a brilliant ball was played in across the box, just across the edge of the 6-yard box, or just inside it. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Jade, but I don't know if it was after Bizet had come on. And there were 3 players in there, and none of them really went for it. It was a phenomenal ball. It just needed a touch on it, but nobody took responsibility for it. And then again, it came to nothing. It's just very frustrating. And yes, I agree, there is an element of the players need to take ownership for that. But I do think the slow nature of the build-up play and things like that, that's tactically what they're being coached to do. And I agree with lots of people saying, I think the bright spark was Jade Riviere. I think she should win this player of the match poll, hands down. It should be a landslide. Jace again was dangerous, but cut a slightly more frustrated figure, and then she was hooked off. She was taken off. And then it was just a couple of quite defensive substitutions. I think he didn't bring Rachel Williams on, which people always say is his plan B. But it feels like a little bit of an opportunity missed. I think another couple of goals and we would have gone into the winter break in third, which would have been incredible when you look at some of the performances we've put in and where we've perhaps dropped points. But yeah, it was a disappointing result. What I will say was, it was a relieved travelling fan base when that final whistle went, because it was the last few minutes where Palace was starting to build up a fair few attacks, and it was feeling nervy. So very pleased with the win in the end, but the manner of it, no, not so much.
I think that's it. When you're talking about the goals itself, I think, me and Barry talking about it. So, Palace have conceded 26, or it was 25 before our game, but 26 now in the league. That's far more than any other team in this division. Most teams that have played them this season have scored at least 2 or 3. But the issue for me wasn't necessarily the goals as such. It's the fact that, and this isn't the only time, you can look back to Villa, we didn't create next to anything in that game. Everton, we won that 1-0. We created a little bit more in that game and looked a little bit more dangerous, but again, not really blowing teams. Well, when you watch, and I hate comparing us to these teams, but when you watch Arsenal or City, for example, in this league, and Chelsea, when they don't drop when they drop points or if they only win narrowly, they are absolutely battering the other team. They are creating so many chances. It's just the case that the other opposition keepers had a worldie, or they're just not clinical on the day, or whatever it is. Whereas with us, it's almost like you mentioned obviously the subs. I want to come back to that, but it was almost like we were like, right, let's hang on to this now, because Palace were getting a few chance. They had a chance right before half time, and it obviously Stengel who ended up going off. But it was a good touch by her, to be fair, but far too easy, kind of down the left. That was their first shot, I think, at the time, and that little flick that she did, which was a great touch, but obviously then hit it into the side netting. And I think again, I'm not saying every game. Oppositions are going to get chances in games. You're not going to completely shut out an opposition team for a whole 90 minutes. That's just not going to happen. But I did expect a little bit more from us, seeing the team that we had out there. And I think the worry for me is for the game against Liverpool, we win that 4-0. Looks great. But up until the first goal, that's kind of how the game went. The difference with that, we got the first, we got the second very quick after, and it killed the game. This one, we got the first right before half time. You go in at half time, we came out in the second half pretty much the same. I think that's what I'm noticing with us this season. We almost need 2 quick goals. Happened against Spurs, happened against Liverpool, Newcastle as well. Like these games, we're getting 2 quick goals and killing it. These games where we don't, it's a bit of a nervy watch. So you mentioned player of the match poll very quickly. That is in the chat. I can't lie to you. This was incredibly hard to pick 4 names. So what I've done is I've gone back on the tweet that we put out full time. And just saw if there's any names that people were mentioning. So the 4 names that are on there: Jade Riviere, Grace Clinton, Jason, May Letitia, because they're the 4 names that were tweeted to us at the time. But as you said, Jade is comfortably winning, which, as people will probably guess from my tone as well, as she should be in my opinion, but we'll come back to that at the end. The goal itself, like I said, we did score just before half time. Clinton with her, is that a 4th goal of the season? 3rd goal of the season? I can't remember how many she's on now. Barry, the goal itself, is there anything you can praise United with, I guess? We pressed pretty high. I think it's Galton that pressed the keeper down. Jason pressing the centre-back, and Clinton kind of put it. It looked weird on TV because it kind of like went in central of the goal. It looked like anyway, so it didn't really look like a great finish or anything else. It was just there was no keeper in net because of the position of where we were.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think full credit first of all to Leah. That was the big thing. That was the catalyst for it. By putting the goalkeeper under pressure, she needed to do a shorter pass rather than booting up the field. She didn't have the ability to do that, so she had to come inside. That was then superb by Jace, because she did exactly the same thing, put a little bit of pressure on the centre back, and as a result, the ball just popped free, and Grace Clinton finishes it. And that's exactly what we should be doing. Absolutely. But this is what I'm talking about with energy. That 1 minute, we showed more energy in that 1 minute than we did for the next 89. And that's the whole thing, is that there was not enough of that. There was not enough trying to win the ball high up the pitch. There wasn't enough of us just playing football the way that we've had the ability to do and have done on occasions this season. So for me, absolutely superb goal. Fair play for that. People are going to say, yeah, it's a mistake from them. It is, but it's a forced mistake. I think it's a forced error. If that was tennis, that would definitely be one of the ones where it'd be marked down as a forced error rather than unforced error. They didn't just kick it wasn't like watching Anana's one where he's just decided to pass it to their player and then off they go and score. It wasn't as bad as that. This one was actual pressure on the goalkeeper. So for me, I think we should get a bit more praise for the goal than we have done. And it's a good finish from Grace. We've still got to get those on target. And like you say, it was 18 to 20 yards out. So not easy always to do that as well. That could have just as easily been skied. And so I think for me, that's the important bit of the goal. But it's frustrating that that's 1 of 3 shots on target. And that's it for 90 minutes. So, I'm sure we'll get into that again when we talk about the second half. But in terms of the goal, you've got to give credit, first of all, to the 2 either side of her in terms of Leah and Jace. I think very important that they do their bit. And then, of course, Grace Clinton, you absolutely can't fault her for getting the ball on target as was needed and past everybody else. And it was a vital goal in the end because it was the difference between 3 points and 1.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think Charlie, when I throw this question to yourself, because Barry mentioned the press there, that's probably the only time in the game really that we did it to that level. And it's something, I go back to the Brighton game, albeit it was a disappointing result at the time. We came away 1-1, but that first half against Brighton, that's exactly what we were doing, pressing really high as a team. And we've kind of gone away from that. I don't know why. Ever since that game, we seem to have just dropped deeper and deeper in how we're playing and don't seem to want to do that anymore. And I'm not entirely sure why, because that's the one area of our game I was looking at going, that's working. There's other issues for sure, but that was working. I don't quite know why we've gone away from that. But have you got anything to add in terms of the goal itself? And I don't really know what else to say on it, because obviously it's a forced error. I agree with Barry on that one. But have you got anything to add there?
No, I mean, obviously Barry's right. It's important you capitalise on forced mistakes like that, and that's what we did. And yeah, it's just, I think everyone was hoping that, but then that was sort of the floodgates would open a little bit after that. Come out second half, sort of buoyed a little bit, and tails will be up and ready to push on. But I think you're right, Connor. It just seems like our season at the moment is the odd good performance, but they're mostly built on just little moments of where we seem to, for short periods of time, take the game by the scruff of the neck or do something well, and then you don't see it again. Because again, yesterday, lots of the pressure on the Palace back line and the Palace goalkeeper was coming from our poor lone striker. He was having no success, and then the one time it looked structured and planned and the press looks timed, we had success with it. So yeah, it's one of those things where you, like you said, you look at it and you go, well, why don't we do things like that on a more consistently? I don't know. It just creates more questions for me, things like that. Why almost like if something doesn't work once, it's like, we're not doing that again, I'm not doing that now, like, and just it's just bizarre, isn't it?
It certainly is. And whether
sorry, I'm just seeing a lot of people talking about the tactics there. And saying that the managers have figured it out. They might have done, but they're figuring it out, and yet we're still winning. So, it might not be rocket science, but they should perhaps go and get a degree, because they clearly don't know enough to be able to take advantage of it just yet.
I think that's the weird thing, actually. I was talking to a couple of people after the game about this, that like it's strange the position we're in the league, because most of the fan base, I would say, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but there is obviously frustration around the fan base at the moment for various different reasons. Everyone's got their reasons for that. We're only 1 point off second, but we're playing in a way that just is not exciting anyone in the way that is just frustrating fans. You'd argue players out of position, particularly the likes of Janssen in midfield, and these kinds of things. We're not seeing the best out of Turland in the way that maybe we hoped. It's a weird season and a time at the moment in terms of where we're at. And I think, Barry, you said that, Charlie, you just said it. Obviously, we get the goal, and I was the same. I remember texting Barry during the game, being like, "I'm not worried about Palace scoring. It's whether we're going to score," was what I was worried about in that first kind of 30 minutes or so. We did, and I thought, right, I think we'll get a few more now, because we've got the one. Palace are going to have to come out at us, and we just were almost happy to just sit on that one and just, I don't know. It was such a weird watch, because that's not the United team that I've been watching over the last couple of years. Albeit we were quite poor last season, at least we went for games a bit more. At least we actually went to try and win games in a better manner than this. I don't know what's happened this season in terms of sitting on these leads, but I mean,
did say we'd score though, didn't I?
Yes, to be fair. I mean, I don't know what I said in the preview. I think I said 3-0 or something like that. So I thought we'd score a couple more. There was a game. I think it's disappointing, personally. Alex has just put the comment in there, so 1-0 is disappointing. Disappointed in the performance, happy with the result, I think, is probably the takeaway from this. Because, of course, you want the team to win.
A quote in there beforehand saying it was a game where you make the most of the goal difference. So.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought that was a question. I didn't see that comment above it.
He's coming on, going, oh, so 1-0 was disappointing.
Sorry, Alex. I misread that comment. Right, okay. I now see what your point is. I thought that was a question. But no, I get your point as well. And what's everyone else saying in the chat before we quickly move on to the second? Ella's saying, I personally would watch entertaining football than a scrape of 1-0. I agree. I think that would go for most things. As I've said, multiple times, football fans want to be entertained. It's why we watch the game. It's, ultimately you do want to win and you want to win trophies. That's why you're in the game, but you still want to be entertained along the way. And things like that.
Well, like there's obviously the flip side of it, and there's a little bit of mention in the comments is that perhaps we're playing the way we are because we were sort of run through at times last season, and teams had too many chances. I still think we are. I don't think that's changed. If the approach to season is to set up not to be battered and not to be run through, I still think we're being run through. Watching the game yesterday, there were 2 or 3 times when Palace were really easily just playing through the middle of the park, unchallenged, no pressure being put on them. And if they're a better side, or one of the better sides, they would have had success. The difference, the lack of goals being conceded, the mix is 95% down to the goalkeeper. And I think you can see that when you look at, I don't know what you call it. Connor knows what these things are. Like how many almost short stops is more than anyone else. So I think it's a case of we're parking the bus and we're being really compact to stop teams playing through us. I think that's still happening, but the goalkeeper is made a lot of really important saves. Not yesterday, potentially, because she didn't have a lot to do. One save, Barry, you said she made yesterday, and she made it. But she has had to make important saves and come and claim the ball and clear the ball out a lot. So I think it's deceiving. We just base it on goals conceded, personally.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think expected goals against was the phrase you were after there, which is currently sat at 10.9, and we've conceded 3, which, as I said before, if your expected goals against is that high, you are clearly giving up chances with obviously a higher expected goal at the end of it. But we've only conceded 3, so that shows you that either the goalkeeper is making outstanding saves, or you've got a lot of last-ditch defending going on that is then denying that chance in the end. So I agree with you, and I think part of that comes down to the midfield, and where I've said an issue since you can go back and watch the game after West Ham, the very first game of the season. I was saying that this was going to be, I think, was going to be a problem, that we're not necessarily getting control of games. And I think that's potentially an issue, and that kind of moves on to the second half, because, as I said, I don't think we were that much better. I think there's a couple of chances that I remember. I think Jace had a chance where she hit it straight at the goalkeeper. The cross, I think, Charlie, you mentioned that Jade whipped in, but nobody was kind of getting on the end of it. Barry, what would you... I'm going to come to the subs as a separate kind of point, but I mean, what would you have changed to make us, I guess, better in the second half from watching it? Because, as I said, I don't think, again, I don't know what the stats say, to be honest, because, I mean, I've just got... Well, no, statistically wise, we were a lot worse in the second half than we were in the first. Only 5 shots in the second half, and we had 10 in the first. So from that point of view, it was obviously down again. But how did you kind of see it, and what would you have liked to have seen changed, to potentially get that goal margin a little bit higher?
The mischievous side of me kind of wants to say the manager. It's God's honest truth, because it's dull. Like, I don't know. Without talking about the subs, it's very difficult for me to say what I'd have liked to see change.
You can talk about the subs. Bring the subs into it.
That's what you need to do. You need to bring on the subs. There's nothing wrong in the grand scheme of the world of having 60 minutes of football ish, because as we all know, Charlie likes 60 minutes, so we best keep it at that, otherwise we'll end up having this he's already getting upset, just throwing the phone about, oh god. But you've got to react to it, and if at 60 minutes in a game like this you're 1-0 up, it's not really too many chances. Even 65 minutes, the fact that we make 3 substitutions, one of them's on the 60th minute, but we're taking off probably our most attacking player in terms of Jace for Muzzy, is a little bit mad, really. And that's the only one. And then you wait another 12 minutes, and even that one is, oh no, let's take off the left back and bring on another left back. And then pity minutes for Hayley Ladd, so that her joints don't seize up or something, I'm assuming, because he clearly thinks she's over the hill and ready for her slippers and pipe. Like, I don't know what is going on. On that bench, you've got Rachel Williams, who would absolutely she'd have run around. She is that excitable puppy at Christmas. She would have run around that pitch and she'd have covered every single blade of grass at least once. Could have brought them on. Emma Watson. Like, it's the last game of the year. Connor. There's no more football now till January. So there's no excuses here for not giving more minutes to people and giving them the opportunity to go out there and put a little bit more effort in. You've got Simi, what's it, 21, 22? Again, lots of energy. No, I won't bring her on. Melvine Mallard. No, I won't bring her. Like, all of those people, 3 people have been brought on. And with the greatest of respect, this was not a game where Hayley Ladd needed to come on. And it wasn't a game where Anna Sandberg needed to come on. This, for me, was the opportunity to get Rach, Emma, possibly Simi, but definitely Melvine. All 3 of them, without question, should have been on the pitch with enough time for them to make a difference. And the fact that the only attacking player we brought on was Muzzy for Jace is a problem. In the last game, like, how many weeks is it now till we play again? It's got to be at least 3.
Yeah, 4 weeks yesterday.
4 weeks yesterday. Like, what the chuff? 4 weeks. Like, what are these people going to be doing? Even if in the slightest of tweaks, they've got 4 weeks to get over it. But instead of giving them the opportunity to get out there and run about, now you can just sit there. We'll just tire out these people who are clearly already knackered and not giving us everything. So, like, what should have changed? That change some players, zhuzh it up a little bit.
Zhuzh.
Exactly. It's a very important word. The word zhuzh.
He's all about the energy and the synergy, isn't he? There is.
Oh, isn't that what he always says in his
buzzword
in his interviews?
I
got to show more energy. I don't know why he turned into a scouser. Maybe it's because I'm getting annoyed. Need more energy, like him. You know what I mean? Yeah, more energy in the football. But there's not, Mr. Skinner. There was about as much energy in that as there was in my hair clippers, and I've had to throw them away because the battery's gone. So I'm not even joking. 35 minutes it took me to do this using my beard trimmer. I was not happy. Not happy at all.
Oh, is this about Ashley Young? Do you remember when Ashley Young grew all that hair on his head and everyone was surprised? Is that actually you? And you're not actually bald?
My hair grows around here. It's like a halo, but it stops there. So it's less of a halo, more of a horseshoe. And so as a result, once it gets a bit fluffy, I start looking a bit Einstein-y. I don't like it, and it winds me up. So... like, I have to get rid of it. To the point, one of the kids at school actually said to me, "You need a haircut, Mr. Ross." I'm like, I absolutely do. But can I tell you, I went to do it the weekend. The trimmer's broken. So I needed some time to do it because I know it's going to take longer. And then at Friar Tuck, exactly that, Michael. It's exactly who I look like. And I'm fat like him and all. So it's not helpful. But yeah, got for it. Connor hasn't got a clue who Friar Tuck is.
No idea. What I will just quickly add, because I know there'll be people listening on audio as well, and new people for the first time as well. When Barry and Charlie are referencing Muzzy, that is Celine Bizet. For those of you who are new to the channel, and I've got no idea who that is.
Muzzy Bizet. Do you know what we were saying at the game yesterday? And someone did say, "Who are you talking about?" There's a person that was stood behind us. I was like, "Who is that?" I was like, "Celine Bizet." They're like, "You said Muzzy Bizet." It's like, yes. Like a cultural reference, all about the cultural capital, me. So I told them all about one of Leicester City's greatest ever men's side. But going back to the synergy and the energy, Emma Watson played brilliantly midweek, like brilliantly. Chef's kiss. She was a thing of beauty when she was playing against Newcastle. Like she would have brought something different because every time she's played, and when she came on again, when she played against Everton. She's also, technically, she's very good, but she's very bullish as well, which I like. Like, she's pretty physical, isn't she? She's not the biggest player, but she's really physical as well. So she could have done something there. Also, Melvine Mallard was warming up a lot. So I was convinced that she was coming on. And actually, in the second half, and you wouldn't have seen this on telly, when the fans were chanting for her, and then when she came back and we applauded, she was like, no, she was like trying to get everyone to keep jigging up and chanting for her and calling her name. Which I'm going to choose to believe was because she thought we could have some sort of influence to get our UEFA Women's Champions League winner on the pitch at some point. It was just, yeah, it was very strange. I just don't feel like we're ever going to get the best out of this group of players. And with the way it is at the moment, we're just not going to get the best out of them. And it's a real shame because individually, player for player, I think this is the best team we've ever had, probably by a considerable margin, actually. And we just talked about the players that we could bring on. It hasn't been often that we've been able to say players of that caliber and that quantity of player of that caliber we've got available to come on. And yeah, poor Hayley Ladd. I will say thanks, Hayley Ladd, for giving my daughter a wave and a thumbs up at the end. That was nice. Evie was holding a cardboard cutout of Hayley Ladd's face in front of Hayley Ladd. I don't know where she got it from, actually. I'm not sure.
I think I do.
I'm not sure where she got it from. You know you printed off and made it.
Also, shout out to my 3 babysitters. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciated you on Sunday. But yeah, just a real shame, isn't it, that they couldn't come on and, like Barry said, in a game like that where the opposition weren't offering that much, the couple of times we did move the ball quickly and tried to make something happen, we did cut them open. Like they were there for the taking. With 4 weeks off, that those players didn't get a look in. Very, very bizarre.
It's frustrating more than anything because we talk about bridging that gap. So Simmy's a young player, Emma's a young player, Rachel's a young player. And so as a result, you want to give these youngsters, these young up-and-comers, these whippersnappers, the opportunity to show what they can do. And if you're going to play against a team like Crystal Palace, you know, that's a perfect, just up from the Championship, fighting for their lives down near the bottom of the table. That's the perfect place for these youngsters to test themselves in a game where, let's be honest, we were ahead. It wasn't going to be the end of the world. So I just find it absolutely crazy that we haven't used that opportunity to try and blood these players a little bit more and give them more opportunity, because it's one thing to go out there against Newcastle with a few players moved off and go out there and dominate the game and get the goals and do all of those sorts of things. But to do that against Crystal Palace in the WSL is much bigger. Like, just how many times in the history of Manchester United, as a general rule, have we seen young players come up to play in things like the League Cup, man or woman, score a goal, we never heard of them again? You've got to give them the opportunities in the league as well. And I think that's just so important. And it's just, like, genuinely, it's the most. And for me, if you're an Emma Watson, you, like you say, you've had that Wednesday time of your life. Yes, we've got to look after these players, but just imagine that she does that and then comes on again in this game, nicks another goal or sets one up and does something there, a little moment of magic. And all of a sudden, you're talking about a player who's been in a rich vein of form and has the opportunity coming back into the second half of the season. You know, her tail's right up. She's thinking, this is brilliant. Now, she wasn't deemed good enough to come on even for 5 minutes because Hayley Ladd was picked over that. I mean, what on earth has been gained by bringing Hayley Ladd on for the last 3 minutes? I sincerely doubt that Hinny's come off there going, oh, thank God I got those 5 minutes off. Oh, like, what are you doing? She's not sitting there going, oh, I'm knackered, please help me. 5 minutes. What the, like, you know, you feel better if you've had half an hour not playing, but oh, thank God, yeah, I don't think I'd have lasted another 5 minutes. She's an elite athlete. Like, honestly, it's absolutely crazy. So what would I have changed? Like, just genuinely, whoever's in charge of making these decisions, because they're starting to annoy me.
I think the thing with Emma Watson as well, as we said, she was one of the players of the match on Wednesday night against Newcastle, and she got hooked around 65th minute or something like that for Mia Zara, I think it was at the time. It's like, why are you bringing her off then? You know, in that game, you may as well have played her for the full game against Newcastle if you weren't going to play her in this one, because when she got brought off in that game, I thought, okay, well, maybe there's a chance and she's playing a little bit in this one. And I know she is coming back from an injury and everything else, but she's playing a lot. She's playing a lot for Scotland as well and everything else. So I don't see what the issue is. And when you need energy, you know, we saw what she can bring as well. Melvin Mallard, you're going to get energy from her. And, you know, Goldson, I think, was maybe not as involved in the game as she was against Liverpool. So you bring Mallard on, or even change it, take Turland off, put Mallard at top, offer you something a little bit different, a different kind of forward then. It's the fact that we just allowed the game to go on. And I agree with what you're saying about Ladd. I want to come back to her because there's obviously a lot of comments about her potentially being her last game and everything else with the transfer window opening soon. Sandberg, again, I think the sub itself, I'm not massively against, but you're bringing it 72 minutes. It's not ridiculously late, but and I thought she was actually all right when she came on. I think she was offering a bit more from an attacking point of view. But again, if that's your attacking way of playing, and what are the rest of the forwards doing if you're relying on your left back to come on and provide the attacking outlet for the game? So did Galton play the full 90? I believe she did. She didn't come off, did she? So yeah, so Galton did play the full 90 in the end. So this is my issue with it. I think when you're looking to bring energy into the game, and we could be sat here, if he'd have brought on Watson, Mallard, whatever else, I'd be sat here right now going, okay, we won 1-0, but we did try and change it at least in the game. That's what annoys me. And this isn't the reason I asked the question is because if that's a one-off game, fair enough, it happens. It's just one of those. But we've seen this a lot, and I think over Skinner's tenure at United to just let games drift. And then if we'd have conceded towards the end, then I can then guarantee Mark would have made the changes. It's like we waited for something to happen to react to it rather than actually seeing the game is getting away from us a little bit. I still think we had relative control of the game. I never really sat there going, oh, Palace, I think are going to score it until the last 5 minutes or so. So it wasn't necessarily that, but it was more just, I don't know. We didn't do enough, I don't think, to change it. And whether there's other questions, I don't know. I don't think Mark was asked about the subs in his post-match. I don't think he answered anything about that. But it was an area of frustration when we bring Mallard back, and I don't know how many games she's played since she's been back, but it doesn't feel like a lot, in terms of when she's been back from a loan spell and everything else. So it's a bit frustrating for me on that one. There's obviously a lot of comments about Ladd in particular. I'll come back to her in just a second, because obviously that is a question I think that is hanging over everyone. I just want to quickly answer this. Well, Mike was asking why Newell signed a professional contract. She did actually play yesterday. She was playing in the 21s, which I believe they're through to the semi-final now as well in that cup competition as well. So she did actually play, but she's not currently playing for the first team.
Yeah, they beat Loughborough Lightning.
There you go. So
it's unusual to sign academy players to professional contracts and then them not immediately be in the first team. Like that doesn't happen.
I mean, you could probably say the same for Jess and Saf, I would imagine. They kind of both sign professionals and not.
Then the thing is going to be, like, we were just talking about all these other players that have won Champions Leagues and are still young and they aren't getting a look in either. So it's unlikely that players like that are gonna get a look in. I think I saw something in the comments all about people saying like Skinner's not proactive, is too reactive. I don't think he's reactive either. It's just like you were saying. I think he's passive. I think he's passive during a game. I think the whole I think the whole setup is passive. The whole coaching staff is passive. Like as just a group. Like you watch them warming up. And Charlotte Healy's getting involved a little bit, but the other guys just stood there for 35 minutes, mouth closed, just staring. Like I don't like. You think about the first team coaches before used to be in amongst it, didn't they? You could hear them talking, directing. It's just none of that now. It's just very. It's almost like, oh, go out there, pick your own bibs, and then just do what you think. It's like a silent PE lesson when you're sick of talking to the kids. Not me. I don't teach PE. I teach maths, subject that matters the most. If you're interested, and going, oh yeah, just sort yourselves out today. You know what to do. It's just a bit like it's just passive. There's looks like no real leadership or motivation or no inspiration. There's nothing. And like if even in any industry, if you work under someone who's not inspiring in some way, and that doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they say. It doesn't mean that at all. But if there's nothing inspiring or charismatic about the people leading you, that's sapping, I think. And again, from the outside looking, it looks a little bit like that as well.
No, I agree. I think that's people know my thoughts on that by now, I'm sure. Yeah, some very good points been made in the chat as well, obviously, about the game. Ella obviously doesn't want us to talk about Melvin's lack of minutes. Yeah, it is frustrating because, as people know, she was one of my favourite players last season as well. And it's not just because of her and her personality. I think she's one of our best forwards. And I said she was at Lyon for a reason. She is a very, very good footballer. And just not utilising her. I think Charlie is right. I just don't think we'll see the best of this squad, certainly this season, under the current setup that we've got. So, Charlie, I'm assuming you're laughing at Jonathan's comment about there's energy and synergy. So, well, that was I don't know. That's another one of press conference buzzwords that we get.
To be honest, with him at the moment, there's synergy, there's energy, and with Mark Skinner, there's a lot of OMG.
Literally. And yeah, I don't know. We spoke about the subs as well. It was referenced in the chat a bit earlier on. Obviously, Jace was taken off around the 60th minute mark, and she did not look very happy with that, which, to be fair, I don't think many players are happy when they come off. But yeah, I don't think she was best pleased with that. And to be fair, I wouldn't either, because I actually thought she was pretty good. You know, I don't think she was exceptional, but, you know, she, again, dangerous, you know, and she gets taken off first when I think Turlan's isolated Galton, I don't think was great. And, you know, I don't actually think Clinton was that good in the game. I can't lie. You know, I know she got the goal, but I thought overall, I don't think Clinton was all that good. And Jace is there being the first one hooked again. And I'm just like, I can understand her frustration, if I'm being honest, because she's probably thinking, well, I'm the one trying, tracking back, doing everything that she's been asked to do. And she's taken off first. So I understand her frustration. I can't lie. Lots said about, don't forget. Yeah, aggressiveness. That's another word that I like to hear from the conferences.
But again, it's that thing of, so like, and we don't really know, but like, I imagine him saying to them, like, you need to be aggressive. But then what does that mean? What does that look like? Because to different people, that looks like very different things, doesn't it?
Well, Jace was aggressive when she came off.
But what does that look like? If you're being aggressive as a team, what do you mean by that? Do you mean like hard tackles? Do you mean how you press in? What do you mean by we're going to be aggressive? Are we going to go like in? It's just don't get like we're very well led at my school. So when they say, "Oh, we need to do this," we'll then be told what that should look like in various different situations and how you respond to things. That's surely what should be happening here. So, oh yeah, we're going to show loads of energy. Okay, how? Because it doesn't look like we're doing it in the press. It doesn't look like we're doing it through counter-attacking. It doesn't look like we're doing it through the tackle. It doesn't look like we're doing it through playing the ball quickly. So how are we going to show loads of energy? What's that going to be? Is there going to be lots of clapping at each other? Is there lots of high five? Like, what's it going to look like? What is it?
Truce made a good point. You know, we're joking about it, but Truce said aggressive equals having the most yellow cards in the league, because we do. We have by quite some margin as well. We've got the most yellow cards by quite a distance. So whether that's it, I don't know.
But no yellow cards yesterday for tugging on shirts. Did you see that on the telly? How often that happened? Palace player I'll just tug your shirt, thanks. Back you come. That for me is a professional foul. If someone's running with the ball and you just go boop, and is that not a yellow card? It wasn't yesterday, 3 or 4 times.
I have to be honest, I always love the term professional foul.
And I don't really know what it means.
How do you get a professional foul? As if you can get a degree in fouling.
Yeah,
like, this is not just an amateur foul. That one is a proper professional foul.
Because
right there.
Do you think it's
like
because
a professional footballer, professional foul?
It's like a posh one. It's like a posh foul. So you're not going in studs up. You're not punching anyone. You're just going boop. And just pulling their shirt.
I'd like to hope they're making that sound when they do it.
I hope so.
Just imagine that, yeah. Rather than just really aggressive. Boop. Oh, sorry about that.
Different sound bites depending on the type of foul it was. So, like, if you're like,
if that's the case, imagine what it would be like to be Katie McCabe.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine?
You know, she smashes a ball against somebody's head. What's that?
Can you imagine, wouldn't it?
Where do these conversations go? But yes, I agree. And as has been referenced, JJ's put in the chat, United post on the Instagram. They did as a way of selling the away shot or whatever it was, wasn't it? Or the third shot, I can't remember which one it is. But yeah, just saying, Palace player clearly wanted it. You can get your shirt here, whatever else. So I thought that was quite good, actually. That's a good little way to spin it into a marketing thing for your shirts to sell. Right, before I come on to a kind of player of the match and we'll talk individually about a couple of player performances, Barry, you've started a comment here from Paul. So I'm putting you on the spot here.
I don't disagree at all with the fact that we don't just change it to give players more minutes specifically. It was this whole thing about the win on Sunday was more important. Well, it was, but I'd like you to point to the substitutions that he did make that helped us to win that game. Because I don't think bringing off Jay's our most attacking forward, I think fully agreed, out of everybody watching so far. I don't think taking her off for Muzzy was going to be the answer. I don't think that taking off Hinney for 5 minutes and bringing on Hayley Ladd right at the very end I don't think we're sitting there going, oh, thank goodness, that's why we won the game. And equally, I'm not convinced that bringing on Anna Sandberg with 18 minutes to go for Gabby George is helping us to play for the win specifically. You know, there could be other little bits that we don't know. There might have been little knocks, little twinges, things like that, reasons why he's chosen to do that. You can make more than 3 substitutions, and we didn't do that. And I just refuse to believe if we're going to sit here now as a fan base and say we can only pick players that are going to help us to win, and yet we're sitting there and suggesting that people like Melvine Mallard, people like Emma Watson, all of these players that we've mentioned that could have come on and had minutes, if we're saying that these players aren't capable of making us win and helping us win, then we're in a real situation. Because we've spoken about the squad depth that we've had at this football club for an incredibly long time. And this should be the deepest our squad depth has gone for some time. The fact that we've been able to put out a second string in the Subway Motors, Conti, Rumbelows, Littlewoods, Coca-Cola Cup, in the middle of all of that, we've been able to put out a really good second string that have performed well and have got us through to the quarterfinals. Last year, granted, we would have done it if it hadn't been for Aston Villa's inability to write names properly on a sheet. And the year before that was absolutely atrocious. We just changed all the players and we didn't do very well at all. So it's not digging you out. I agree with you in the grand scheme of things. Of course, you pick the players. My argument is I don't think that the substitutions that he made were specifically about playing for the win. I just think they were just, for want of a better term, pathetic.
Yeah, no, that's kind of where I lean towards. So, like I said, I think you react in a game and you make the changes to it. But I don't think any of those changes helped us get the win. As I said, Palace had their best chances towards the end of the game. So, you know, I don't necessarily agree that the subs made all that much impact on it, to be honest. Michael's telling you off here for just using Muzzy, but I might just interject every time you say it and just say Bizzet so people know you're on about when you say that from now on.
Sorry, I forget that. I forget that. Like, I'm just talking to you two. I forget that there's other people listening. That's what happened.
Of course.
Remember, I might just use. Remember when we did our predicted lineups and I used all the nicknames? I'm going to go back and rewatch that, and that's how I'm going to refer to all of them from this point onwards. Yeah, and then that's just how I refer to all of them, so I can see it.
I'd just like to say to Michael, I still don't feel comfortable about the word Terry for Elizabeth Turland. Still, nobody's explained to me why that's a nickname, unless she's gone wandering into.
She's explained it. She did an interview with.
God, I thought she walked into Carrington with a chocolate orange. And somebody said, "Is this yours?" She said, "No, it's Terry's," and that's why. That's the only reason I can think of. So tell me more. Why?
It was she did an interview with Flo for Sky Sports, and she was talking about how when she went to Brighton, I can't remember which player she said it was, but someone wanted to give her a nickname or something, and that's what they came up with. That's literally where it came from. I can't. I'll send you the interview afterwards, but she's definitely explained it. It was something to do with at Brighton.
That hasn't explained it. How did you get the nickname? Oh, somebody at Brighton called me that.
Yeah, I can't remember what the story is. Someone in the chat can correct me, but it was definitely there's an interview with Flo on Sky Sports where she answers that question. So I'll send it to you after this.
There's 70 of you here watching this. Somebody must know why Elizabeth Turland, the Queen herself, has been called Bleeding Terry. He's the guy who runs American Idol, isn't he? Old Terry Crews.
Hayley Ladd, very quickly on her before we move on to player of the match and wrap it up. Do we think, very simple and blunt question, do we think that's the last time we've seen Hayley Ladd at United? The reason I asked this question is because there was speculation over the summer, and she's actually spoken about this herself, where she said she considered a move away and everything else, but she decided to stay at United. There's obviously talk at the moment around her. She's not playing. I think she's played 15 WSL minutes this season. Now, the reason, again, I ask it again, with Wales now qualifying for the Euros, the Welsh manager has made it very clear that players are going to need to be playing, obviously, to make that team and that squad. Do we think this is probably a time where we see her move, if anything, just to get game time ahead of the Euros? Because if this season's anything to base it off, she's only played 15 minutes in the WSL. she's not going to get many more than that, I can't imagine, unless we have a load of injuries. And with Lisa coming back in January as well, and Ella too, and that's 2 midfielders coming back into the equation. So that's 2 players that are then going to be ahead of her again. Do we think so? Where are we leaning towards on that one?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be a real shame that she goes out with a little bit of a whimper, really. Then again, the club have a history of doing that, don't they, to players that have been there a long time. I think the Wales thing, it's massive for them that they've made the Euros, isn't it? It's huge for them as a nation, particularly the women's side of things. So I wouldn't be surprised, and it'd be the right decision for her. It'd be a massive loss for us, I think, but the right decision for her to go somewhere where she'll play, because I think other than maybe the 3 teams above us, she goes into any other WSL side. Or she might go abroad, but she certainly goes to any other WSL side and she massively improves their starting 11. So yeah, I think it will be a shame, but I think it's inevitable. Whether that's like a loan thing, I don't know how long she's got left on her contract, or whether United sell her and try and make a little bit of money. But yeah, it'd be a massive shame. Yeah, Mum did film that. I didn't realise that's who that was. Yeah, nice lady. Yeah, maybe that's why, like we were talking about earlier, her getting those ridiculously small number of minutes yesterday. Perhaps that was meant to be some sort of homage to her and an opportunity for her to say goodbye to the fans. I don't know. But yeah, it's a real shame. It's a shame, I think, for her and for us, but the right thing to get herself into that Wales squad, because I think they'll take her anyway, because like, who's going to play instead of her? Like, well, no one. But yeah, she's got a few good years left in her. She can't be sat rotting on the bench for us, I don't think.
I mean, yeah, and no, I agree. No one is going to start over. I think it's more match fitness, I think, for her going into a major tournament. Shane's put the comment here, though, Barry, that she might go for a low move. Jill Scott did the same before the last Euros. That potentially is something that she looks at. I mean, either way, I still think it's been... Do I use this word? I think it has been pretty disgraceful, to be honest, how she's been treated this season. This is one of the best midfielders we have and had over the last couple of years, and just to not get any minutes at all in the league. I know she started the Subway League Cup games. I know she started those ones, but 15 in a WSL for me is just nowhere near enough in a midfield that I think has not been that good.
That's right. Yeah, they've been poor.
I mean, listen, it's a midfield that stayed in the league, so just got to kind of throw that one out.
We're nearly there. We're fourth, but
Point third. It's only because of goals. If we could get some past Crystal Palace, we might have the opportunity to have been sat there all by ourselves. But there we go. Listen, here's the key thing for me is that there are lots of players that can play in that midfield. We know that. Midfield is a place where Manchester United have always been blessed in terms of the numbers of people that can play there, and we do still have them. We mentioned a lot of them already today. We've got Dominique Janssen, who has been playing in midfield. That's clearly where Mark Skinner wants to play her. You've got Lisa Nielsen, you've got Grace Clinton, you've got Simi. There are players there who could do that midfield spot. Hinney's played there, obviously. Ella Toon potentially could end up somewhere within the midfield. So there's ways and means of moving the people around. So in terms of the players that we've got left over, am I particularly concerned about the fact that Hayley Ladd is going? Well, no, I'm not, because that's the decision he's already made. He's done that. We've just said she's only played 15 minutes. So we are where we are without Hayley Ladd. And I think that's the sobering truth and harsh reality of the situation we're in. The problem is could we be any better had we actually played Hayley Ladd like we've suggested? And deep down, I think yes is the answer to that. I think there was still a way of playing it where we could have had Hayley in the centre of the midfield and we still could have played Dominique Janssen. I think for me, those are the big things. And it's really hard to criticise because we talk about taking Dominique Janssen and putting her into defence, but we've only conceded 3 goals. Like the defence, for as much as people might want to say, Millie Tanner could be a liability, like people say that, but we've only conceded 3 goals and we've played Chelsea. So, we have all of these conversations about where the players are and what they're doing, but actually the defence has stood up to every game incredibly well for the most part. I get what we're talking about with the shots being got away and with PTJ doing what she does in order to save them all. So I do understand that, but regardless, that's what the goalkeeper's paid for, right? Let's go full Roy Keane. It's her job. That's what she does. It's literally why I went out there to get one of the best. So that's that side of it. But it doesn't change the fact that we had this midfielder. We knew that she was there. And I think the reason why it's annoying is because if we knew we weren't going to give her this time, why have we allowed her to stay? She says, she had the opportunity and maybe that was a poor decision from Hayley in the end there. Maybe she should have said to United, well, that's it then. If I'm not going to play, I'd rather go. Instead, she chose to stay and fight. But I think, with the greatest of respect, what she's counted on there is Mark Skinner dealing with her fairly, and I'm not convinced that he has, because I don't think there is a single person on this panel, in this club, that genuinely doesn't think that Hayley Ladd deserves to play in the centre midfield, and that's the problem. Like, she is so good at this. Sporty's just put there how integral she was to the team when we finished second. It's absolutely madness that we've looked at this person. And honestly, when we got rid of Katie Zellum, I'm pretty sure I said this, we've got Hayley Ladd. I would imagine that Hayley would slip into the spot that everybody's wanting her to be in because of the fact that Katie isn't seen as a 6 and Hayley is. And so the bit that annoys me about all of this, and it always does, and we don't know yet, she might not be going, but if she does go, and all we've done is given her 5 minutes at the end of a game, and once again, we've not bothered to communicate this to the fans, that's not giving them a goodbye. Oh, go on, you can go on and play 5 minutes. That's not giving them a goodbye. Not really, because it's all right for the players, but what about us? So again, we've not had the opportunity to sit there and to chant her name to the manner that we have in the past. It's just, for me, it just comes down to the way Manchester United run this football club again. And it really grates on me that we've got so many good players that we really enjoy, and we don't get the opportunity to say goodbye to them properly, ever. Like, every player that leaves, we don't know they're going, and then they're gone. And we just have to hope that we see something on Instagram or on Twitter where they say, oh, it's been brilliant to play for you. And that's not Man United. That's not how we work. I'll put it out there again. Rafael Varane left Man United. We knew he was going weeks before. So everybody had that chance to get used to it. This is going to be his last match. This is what's going on. Now, I don't know. I don't know if she's agreed a decision or what's going on, or if it's just, if we get an offer, whether we'll let her go. But I just think all of this, it just comes down to, again, the football club not understanding the fans. And frankly, just not seeming to give a monkeys. Because if they did, they'd give us this opportunity. So I think on the football side of things, like, it's crazy to worry about it because she hasn't played for us. So what we're worrying about, we are where we are without her, and he's not going to pick her all of a sudden. And she has to, for her own well-being, she has to, because Wales have made it into a position that they've never been before. They've got the opportunity to go out there and really impress on the international stage. And Hayley Ladd deserves to be a part of that, not just as a proud Welshwoman, but as somebody who is an incredible footballer and deserves the opportunity to go out there and represent her country at the highest level. And she's not going to get that opportunity if she continues to sit on the bench for a manager who has straight up said, well, we're looking at the future.
Which in itself is, as I said, we obviously don't know what's going to happen come January. Obviously, we'll wait and see, and we'll cover that as and when it does. But I think there's clear interest, I think, that will be in her because, as I said, obviously with the Wales situation, the fact that she's already spoken about a move in the summer anyway. For me, I think if she doesn't go in January, she goes in the summer because I just don't see how she can sit around on the bench and just get into teams.
Because if she doesn't go January and she chooses to go in the summer, there's no guarantee she's going to be playing in the Euros.
I think that as well. But as I said, I agree with Charlie. I think she gets selected for the Euros regardless because she's just that good. But again, it's that fitness. I remember speaking to Sean about this. The first lot of internationals this, or was it the second? I can't remember which one it was. One of the internationals, because Lad wasn't playing, and then she went away with Wales, talking about how she was well off the pace and everything else because she hadn't played, and then she went to Wales and was straight into the 11. She didn't look as good as she had previously because of those lack of minutes and the lack of match minutes. So, yeah, I definitely think that's a potential issue there as well. Right, let's quickly come to player of the match. Before I do, I'll just come to a couple of your comments because I've seen quite a few over the last kind of however long. I brought up the one from Sporty saying obviously how integral Hayley was to the team that finished second. Obviously Philip was asking about a loan potentially. Like I said, obviously in the previous comment, I think that is a possibility. Shane's made a good point, important to remember, obviously, with respect to Wales, there's no guarantee to make another tournament in her career. Exactly. I think that's it. This might be the one chance that they have. You can have all the talent in the world, CC Scotland, and not make it to a major tournament. So, you never know when these breaks are gonna happen. So obviously you've got to make sure that that's in the thinking of her as well. Question from Kevin, any rumours on Jane Grace's contract? No, is the short answer. I think some of these are going to drag on, which is not the news that you want to hear, but I think some of these might drag on a little bit. Of
course they're going to drag on. Nobody's watching, are they? They don't care. They're too busy trying to work out whether or not Marcus Rashford should be paid $300,000 or sold. Like, nobody cares. It's just going to run out because that's Man United right now.
Should certainly hope not. Well, with those two in particular, I think we'll get some, but I think it's definitely a case of some of these might drag late into the season. I think, and obviously questions about. I'll come back. I see questions about signings and things like that. I want to come back to that in a separate show because when we come to shows in between Christmas and New Year, I want to come back to those kind of comments about January transfer window and stuff like that because we'll start to get some rumours. I'm sure lots already mentioned Jade Rose and Carolyn. I probably wouldn't get your hopes up. I can't lie on either, but we'll see.
I'm sure we'll be able to find space on the bench for them. I'm sure we can find a little. If they all squeeze up a little bit, we can get them tucked in nicely on the bench there.
Yeah, see, maybe.
Is it just me or is Carolyn mentioned on every single transfer window? Yeah. All the time we're getting Carolyn.
She's like coming. Schneider. She's not Schneider or Nicholas Guyton.
Yeah.
Well, funny you say that. She is she's out of contract, isn't she? January. Yeah. So there's definitely a move coming for her, but where that is. Oh well, there we go. Well, that just kind of shoots that right down. If they extend it, then no. But there we go. So maybe not. But Jade Rose will be one to keep an eye on. Someone's already kind of answered your comment. I don't know. To be honest, personally, I think she comes to WSL, but I don't think she comes to us. But we'll see. Wait and see what happens with her. Speaking of Jade, let's quickly end the player of the match poll because, as we kind of expected, Jade Riviere has won it with 69% of the vote. I think that was when I ended it then. So not the biggest winning margin we've had of these player of the match polls. I think Clinton on the first match day was still a bit. Oh no, 67%. It changed as I ended it. So Jade 67%, Grace with 20, Jace with 7, Maya Leticia with 3. So yeah, just a word on her and her performance overall, because I'm assuming we've all gone for Jade as player of the match in this one. So Charlie, if you want to kick us off with that one.
Yeah, I went for Jade. I thought she was one of the few players that performed well. I thought she did her job defensively, worked really hard to try and create some impetus in attack. And yeah, she was good. I think she made a few decent crosses, put them in dangerous positions. If someone got on the end of them, it would have been a more comfortable scoreline. So I thought, yeah, I thought she was the best, not of a bad bunch, because that implies she wasn't good. I think for me, she was the only one that really stood out yesterday. And Fallon, another clean sheet for Fallon.
That's 9 in 12 for Fallon now as well.
Wow.
So she's certainly doing well.
One say tullis-joyce.
Would you have gone for Jade as well?
I'm about to get pelters. There's been a few people that have sort of messaged us as a channel with regards to what I'm about to say. So I'm going to preface it. The first thing I will preface it with is that Charlie was there. So I absolutely bow to her knowledge on choosing this. And I also have to preface it with, I have not been this bored in a football match in about a decade.
You didn't vote, did you?
I didn't vote, and I didn't vote for that reason. And I'll tell you why. Because in between the majority of watching it on that television just over there, I spent a lot of time doing this. So I cannot sit here and say that I was watching as intricately as I would do, was I there. As a result, that's why I was entirely quiet when you asked me who would I pick to go on the player of the match poll. I didn't answer. I didn't answer because I couldn't give you one. So therefore, based on I didn't fully see the match properly because I was halfway asleep, I'm going to have to go for Grace Clinton for scoring the only goal. And I know that upsets a lot of people, but there you go. So I listen, I would go with Charlie for that one, but I can't just pick somebody who I didn't properly watch. So instead, I've just got to go for that finish. But I could have equally given it to Leah Galton and Jays for their pressing on that one.
Yeah, I think for me, it's got to be Jade. And I think that might be one of Jade's first ever All for United player of the match wins as well. I'll have to fact check that, but she's not won many on here. I know that. And I think, the reason I'd give it to her, just on the eye, I thought she was the best player anyway. But every stat backs up. She was one of the only players with 100% tackles, 6 out of 6, 100% in her aerial duels, 6 interceptions, 100% in crosses. She created the most chances in the game, completed the most dribbles in the game. Every stat metric really is her. So for me, on the eye and the stats backing up for me, it had to be clear. For her on that one, because I just don't think anyone else was at the level that she was in the game.
I'd just like to point out that anybody who is uninformed should never vote. That's exactly the way the world should work. Hence why
absolutely. I didn't. So for me, it has to be her. And the chat obviously agrees, as I said, with 67% of that one. I thought Jemima would be happy with that as well. Jake would be our supremacy, of course. On this one, I will double check that after this show's finished, though, because I believe that might be a first. But I will check. A lot of people obviously in the chat agree, and Jay was that's a great individual game. The fans who stayed awake should be player of the match. Yeah, that's a fair shout as well. Jade, and I think there's obviously a lot of agreements in that one. Right, before I quickly round this one off, then I want to bring up this comment from Positive Time. Sign Chloe Kelly. I'm so against signing Chloe Kelly. I can't even tell you. Anyone who I know, Tooney came from City and Aoife, and players have done it. Anyone who is almost like diehard City, I do not want to see them playing for United. It's still no, not for me. And I don't even think she's better than what we've got. She's not better than Bizet for me. She's not better than Jace.
I rank her the same way that I rank Beth England. So I think she's an upgrade. I'd pick Leah Galton. I'd pick Jace over there every day of the week.
Same as me. So no, I wouldn't be, because she'd come with massive wages, a big, no, not for me. I think she will move. I'll put that out there, but I don't think it'll be to us. And I don't. Yeah, exactly, Erlin. Anyone who starts shushing the crap and doing all that kind of stuff at old. No. I don't know who she supports, Anton, but the fact that she was giving it all to the United fans in every derby they've played, keep her as far away from United as possible for me. But imagine if she signed now, how I'm going to have to start retracting some. Well, no, to be fair, I'd stand by it. But
it should be a next player interview.
Can you imagine?
It'd be really awkward.
I think that's probably a reasonable next. Obviously, with Mary over there as well, I could think that's, and PSG losing a couple of players as well. I could see that. To be fair,
I'm going to get somebody in. Just get a right back. That's what I'd love for Christmas. Just another right back, so that if we don't have Jade, we don't have to put wheel Aoife Mannion out onto right back.
Yeah, we need a fullback. On the right side, because we're pretty stacked left back wise, but we definitely need a right back, I think, just in case. On that one,
I'll stick Letitia out there and whack old Dominique Janssen back into centre back. That's a possibility, Mark, if you're listening.
All that, exactly. So,
or I think Ruben's setup for the boys actually would work quite nicely for this women's side. 3 at the back.
We said this in pre-season, didn't we?
Yeah. 3 at the back, 4, 3. And then you go into a back 5 when you need to. That's what I think. And then we all get what we mostly all want with Dominic Janssen as playing centre-back. Booth. With Mayer and Millie.
Katie Zellum playing in midfield with Hayley Ladd.
Yes.
No, we don't quite all get what we wanted.
Popping him in on a bonce. I think there's mileage in that, but I wouldn't trust him to be able to do that effectively. So,
nah, maybe not. But yeah, I was going to say, and I remember, and all the TikTok lives I did as well. That was a thing that was mentioned all the time. Was could we go to 5 at the back and things like that? So, yeah, potentially, as you said though, Charlie, it's not going to change, is it? Not now. Yeah, Ella and Grace is your 10s. In that kind of. I was going to say in the mount position for the men's, but he lasted about 10 minutes yesterday, didn't he?
Oh.
He's off again.
But
yeah, I do feel sorry.
Mount.
That's terrible.
Hey, Barry, how good was Harry Maguire yesterday?
Love Harry Maguire.
I did actually say to Barry.
Old school, is he?
Manager was really positive about him as well. It was nice.
I did actually say to Barry yesterday that's the first time in a long, long time I think that the men's team has excited me more than the women's yesterday. It's been a long time since that's happened, but yeah. So, but 2 wins, as Charlie said, that's the first time in a long time that's happened on the same weekend. So we can still celebrate that. The men's channel are live, I think now. So if you want to go and listen to all that, you can go and check that out. But yeah, we'll wrap it up there.
If people do want to, I do believe that Andy Beanie and co should have just gone live on All for United. So if you've not had enough of United and you want to talk a bit more about it, whack yourself over there and have a little chat with those guys.
See, there we go. Do all the shows over here. But yes, we'll wrap it up there. We'll be back. The next show is either going to be later this week in terms of during the week, if I can find the show type that I wanted. If not, as I said on the last show, the Christmas special that Barry always puts together is up and coming. So keep your eyes peeled for that, because as I said, if you've watched the last 2 years, you'll know exactly what to expect. I'm sure there'll be lots of roasting than me, so I'm sure that you'll all come back for that, because everyone loves to do that on these things. And a couple of games and things like that, I'm sure.
All about you, Connor.
Hey, I just picked you up then.
It's mostly about you. It's not all about you.
Can't believe that. So yeah, so that's something to look forward to as well at the back end of this week. We'll keep you updated as to when that is on Instagram and Twitter, I'm sure. And yeah, after that...
Sunday.
Oh, there you go. There's the announcement for you, Sunday. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm sure it's going to be a good laugh as we get through, obviously, the Christmas period. We will have other shows as well, kind of in between Christmas and New Year, and obviously going into the transfer window and everything like that. So lots to keep an eye on. And yeah, make sure you're having a good week all. Make sure you're liking this video and subscribing if you haven't already. Make sure you're following us all on socials, All for UnitedWFC on everything. We're so close to 10,000 on Twitter now. So if you aren't already following the Twitter, if you could just hop over there and drop us a quick follow, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Has always been amazing. So many comments and thoughts as always. It's been amazing just to see the engagement with you guys and just watching along to see, because there's so many little chats that you guys have amongst yourselves as well. I think that's the best thing that we've built with this little community over here as well. So that's amazing. Have a good week all, and we shall see you guys in the next one.